What's going on, guys? It's Jacob from Topside MMA, and today I'm going over my weigh-in recap for UFC Fight Night Shanghai Walker versus Zhang. You guys know the deal. We're going to go over all the fights, let you guys know what I thought about the weigh-ins, how it affected my picks, and we'll talk about a whole recap at the very end. So, first up, we got Uran Satybaldiev versus Diyar Nurgozhay. Let me move myself over. Boom. So, not a whole lot stood out to me in this. In terms of their initial weigh-ins, both guys looked all right. I can't say either one looked great or poor, but when it came to the face-offs, Diyar definitely had a little bit of a timid look to him. I can't say he looked super confident compared to Uran. Uran had more of like a blank stare. I don't know. Just the face-offs didn't really seem great to me, but ultimately I can't say it made a big deal either way. Both of these guys seem to make weight. What I will say though is Diyar looked a lot better than last time. Last time he weighed in and he was fighting, he looked like sick. He looked ill. So he does look a lot better this time around. So that does slightly lower my confidence in this fight. I do think it's really realistically a pick'em. So I can't say these weigh-ins really affected too much. I'm still taking Uran here, but very, very slightly. I do think it's a pick'em. Next up, we got SuYoung versus SuYoung. Now, I'm actually a little bit more confident in SuYoung after seeing these weigh-ins. SuYoung looks amazing. He had a great weight cut. He looks absolutely in shape. He looks ready to go. He seems laser focused. I like how he looked on the scales, and it's not to take away from SuYoung. He seemed fine on the scales. He seemed like he had an all right weight cut. But yeah, SuYoung, he just seems like he seems ready to go. He seems completely shredded, lean. He doesn't seem like he had any trouble with the weight cut. It seems like a perfect weight cut, honestly. He took just enough off to where you can tell he's cutting, but doesn't seem like it took away any of his energy or his strength or anything like that. So this was the face-off too. SuYoung looks like he means business. Something about SuYoung in this seemed a little bit timid, a little bit hesitant, a little bit, I don't want to say scared. If you just look at his eyes, he has this more timid demeanor, whereas SuYoung, he means business. He's locked in. He's ready to go. So it made me a little bit more confident in SuYoung. Obviously, you can't have an entire fight pick come down to a face-off, but at the same time, I think he won this face-off. He looked a bit more confident, and I think he had a better weight cut. It seemed like he really had everything go perfectly for him this camp, so it makes my confidence a little bit more, or it makes me a little bit more confident in him, even though odds I think are pretty accurate. This seems like a coin toss of a fight, as long as SuYoung's cardio should be able to hold up, and his takedown defense can hold up towards the in the early half of this fight. I think he should be able to get it done on the scorecards, but like I said, it's a coin toss to me. Now, next up, we got Yizha versus Westin Wilson. Can't really see a whole lot leans me either way for this. I think both guys had a good weight cut. Yizha coming in 145, Westin Wilson 146. I think they both look fine. I can't really say anything stood out to me in particular. They both seem to have a good cut. This was the face-off between the two of them. They seem fine. Westin Wilson definitely has some size to him, I would be very careful. I wouldn't put Yizha on any bets this week, if you're taking his money line, because Westin Wilson has been training with Wonder Boy. He's working on that style, so this is a striking match. I'd be a little bit hesitant. Now, I am still taking Yizha to get the job done this week, as is everyone, I imagine. It kind of looks like Yizha has a little bit of gyno, actually. It's kind of funny. Is he on the sauce or something? I don't know. I just noticed that right now. Like I said, the weigh-ins don't really take a whole lot away from this fight. I can't say it influences my opinion all that much on this one. Both guys seem to have an all right cut. Westin Wilson probably loses this fight. He's set up here for a reason, but at the same time, there would be more surprising things to me if Westin Wilson were to somehow perform a miracle. That wouldn't blow my mind. Obviously, I don't think he does, but these odds are completely shot. But next up, we got Michel Pereira versus Daukaus. Now, this made me a little bit more confident in Michel Pereira. He seems ready to go. He seems like he's actually taking it seriously, and that's exactly what we need from him in this fight. That's all we need. We just need this man to not be paid off by like the Yakuza, and we need him to actually care about his career. It seems like both of those are coming to fruition here. It seems like he's taking it seriously. He looks great on the scales. He had a great weigh-in. Daukaus, he seemed a little bit more reserved, a little bit more quiet, a little bit more, I don't know, just not as confident, didn't really give off the best vibes, whereas Michel Pereira definitely seemed ready to go. He seemed locked in. He seemed dialed for this fight. As you can see in the face-offs too, Daukaus does seem a little bit hesitant, maybe nervous, maybe a little timid. I don't know the right word, but it's just he didn't seem as good as Michel Pereira. You can almost see in Michel Pereira's eyes, he has this aura to him where in the sense of like, he kind of gives off this feeling of like, very high confidence, like I'm just gonna run right through this guy. And it's almost like you could feel Daukaus feeling that, if that makes sense. Like it almost seems like he can pick up how confident Michel Pereira is, and it seems to not rub him the right way, obviously, because he doesn't look great in the face-offs. He seems a little bit on the back end, so not a good look for him necessarily. I think Michel Pereira definitely won this face-off. He looked better in the weigh-ins. He looked better at the face-off, so that makes me even more confident, just ever so slightly, in him this week. Now, next up, we got Rongzhu versus Austin Hubbard. Not a whole lot stood out to me in these weigh-ins. You know, Rongzhu he's a demon, man. He was ready to go. He's locked in, energetic, so I can't say anything negative towards him there. I think he looked great. It didn't give me a ton more confidence because I'm already picking him and I already have decent confidence in him. But Austin Hubbard, you know, he looked all right on the scales. You can definitely tell he's a bit drained. It definitely took a bit out of him, but it doesn't seem like it really had any negative effect on him. Seems like a normal weight cut. He seems totally fine. You know, yes, he's a little bit more reserved than normal, obviously, if he wasn't cutting weight, but he had a little bit of a tougher time, it seems, than Rongzhu, but I can't say it really had a huge impact on my decision here. You know, Rongzhu looked fine at the weigh-ins. Now, at the face-offs, he does seem a little bit more confident compared to Austin Hubbard here. You know, Austin Hubbard definitely has this look in his eyes of like, I don't know. He seems a little scared, honestly, you know, because Rongzhu is a crazy MF. But I can't say it affects my opinion too much because I'm already confident in Rongzhu to get the job done this week. So this does make me even more confident in Rongzhu because I think he did win the face-off here. Austin Hubbard does look scared, but I'm already confident in him. So I think he gets it done regardless. Now, if you guys like the content, please consider subscribing. We just got the memberships going up, so if you want to do that too, that would support the channel a ton. It means a ton to your boys, so thank you so much for all the support, all the love, all the likes, all the comments. Thank you guys once again. Now, next up, we got Charles Johnson versus Lonair Kavanagh. Now, the weigh-ins didn't really make a difference for me. You know, I think both these guys weighed in fine. Charles Johnson's a professional veteran. He knows what he's doing. He looks fine. Looks great on the scales. Lonair Kavanagh, it's funny, like, he's a smaller dude, but these weight cuts definitely, I don't want to say take a toll, but you can tell these weight cuts will really affect him. You know, not in a bad way. He looks fine. He looks great. It's just, you can tell, it's kind of funny, like, for Charles Johnson being bigger and taller, you know, it's like he seems more fine than Lonair in the weight cuts. But when they got to the face-off, they look totally fine. You know, Charles Johnson means business. Lonair Kavanagh, for a young kid, a rookie in the UFC, or not a complete rookie, but he's only had a couple fights. You know, he's definitely new. I think he's, 25 years old? Young kid in the UFC, and he looks damn good. You know, he looks confident. Charles Johnson he's an intimidating dude, you know what I mean? He definitely, he's mean mugging here with the skullet, and, you know, Lonair seems to be handling that fine. This doesn't really change my confidence levels at all in this fight. You know, I still am picking Charles Johnson, but ever so slightly. This feels like a coin toss. It feels like the odds are completely blown out, or not completely blown out, but they seem too wide, you know what I mean? Like, considering they've tightened as well. Lonair Kavanagh was like a -3 something or -4 something at open. So now he's a 2-1 favorite. You know, I think this line is still a tad wide. People underestimate Charles Johnson, man. And if he didn't lose that last fight to the roided out Temirov, whatever, blanked on his name, Temirov, you know what I mean? If he didn't lose that fight, he'd be on a big streak right now. And it just goes to show how good Charles Johnson is, and people are doubting him. People sleep on Charles Johnson. When he's an underdog like this is when he performs. So I like Charles Johnson in this, but like I said, coin toss, the weigh-ins, and the face-offs didn't really affect my opinion all that much on this. I can't say it changes anyone's opinion either way, or it shouldn't, because both guys look good on the scales. Now, next up, we got Maheshate versus Gage Young. Both these guys look great on the scales, you know, they both look really good. I can't say either one's weigh-in really had an opinion change for me. You know, they both seemed fine. They both look ready to go. They both seem locked in. I'm going to talk more about this one at the very end when I go over my final confidence ratings. So I'll touch on this a little bit later. But in terms of just the face-offs and the weigh-ins, can't really say it changes my opinions a whole lot. You know, I can't say my stance has really changed purely due to these weigh-ins. Now, the thing that interested me with Gage Young is Gage Young definitely has the width here. You know, he has that, like, Islam Makhachev back going here. You know, I mean, he has a big-ass back. Maybe, I don't know if he's been working on his grappling, because I know he's really stood on the feet in his last fight, and I know he wants to keep it striking for a lot of the time, but I don't know. He just, all that big-ass back, it makes it seem like maybe he's been working on the grappling. Maybe he has that in his back pocket that he could pull out against Maheshate here. Like, I don't know. I'm a little bit questioning about this fight. You know, I mean, we're going to talk about it more at the end. But anyway, for the weigh-ins and the face-offs, it didn't really change my opinion all that much. I can't really say a whole lot. But Gage Young did look bigger than I thought he did. So Next up, we got Taiyilake Nueraji versus Kiefer Crosbie. Same thing here. I mean, the only thing that really kind of surprised me here was that I didn't think Nueraji was really going to kind of tower over Crosbie like this. I thought the size between the two would be like a little bit more comparable. He seems like he's filling out because he's a young kid too. He's only 24 years old, so he's going to be filling into his body. I just didn't expect it to be this big of a difference. So that was a little bit of a surprise to me, but I can't say it really affected my opinion all that much. Both these guys seem to have a decent weight cut. You know, Kiefer Crosbie does seem ready to go. Nueraji does seem ready to go. I can't really say a whole lot about this. You know, I think people are underestimating Kiefer Crosbie's striking. It's just a matter if Nueraji takes it to the ground or not. I think that's really going to be the main difference here. If Nueraji takes it to the ground, don't get me wrong, I could easily see Crosbie being submitted, but I would be hesitant. Like I said in my last video, I'd be hesitant to just throw all your money on Nueraji, because if this turns into a boxing match, this could be a hell of a lot closer than you think. It almost could be like a who was fighting the heavyweights last week? It was the Rafael Sucaria versus Julius Walker. Same thing. It's like you have like a huge favorite, and by the end of the fight, you're like, what the hell even was that? How is that dude a -600 favorite? I could see it going like this if there is if this turns into just a striking match. So be forewarned on this one. But in terms of the weigh-ins and the face-offs, I can't really say this affects my opinion all that much. It's about the same. So next up, we got Sumudaerji versus Kevin Borjas. Same thing in this one. You know, I already have my opinions made up. I'm already taking Sumudaerji. I am not very confident in this. You know, I get why the majority of people, it seems like, are taking Kevin Borjas this week. I'm still leaning Sumudaerji. I think he can get it done, as I talked about in my last videos. So I do think he gets it done. As in terms of in the aspect of the weigh-ins and the face-offs, I think that this picture kind of did Kevin Borjas a little dirty. I don't think he looks this bad as he did in this picture. But yeah, Sumudaerji looks fine too. Both these guys looked pretty damn good. They seemed like they had a good weight cut, not really showing like a whole lot of bad signs for either of them, you know, in either regard. Now, Kevin Borjas did shave his head. Maybe it was the last factor for him cutting weight. I didn't actually see that. I don't know if that was a thing or not. It was interesting though, because I know didn't he have that like crazy red hair, you know, at times? I just don't remember him going bald like this, but he weighed in at 126, so maybe that was the factor for it. I'm not exactly sure. But this was them at the face-offs. You know, they seem fine. I can't really say either way it made that big of a difference. I'm still leaning Sumudaerji ever so slightly, but like I said, I get why people are taking Borjas here. It's just the weigh-ins and the face-offs didn't really change a whole lot for me, but this is how they looked. Now, next up, Sergei Pavlovich versus Waldo Cortes-Acosta. You know, it's interesting. Waldo Cortes-Acosta is showing up at 262 pounds versus Sergei Pavlovich, 255.5. Waldo does like a bit tubby here, but I mean, he's normally like that. I feel like normally he's a bigger dude. He's definitely not the most shredded. He definitely moves faster than he looks, which is interesting about his build. But dude, I think Sergei Pavlovich is ready to go. You know, he looks a little bit leaner than normal. I don't know. He just seems like in a little bit better shape. He seemed like he had a good weight cut, but both of these guys seem fine to me, honestly. Nothing really stood out. Nothing really gave me a concern for either guy. It doesn't really change my opinions all that much. This was them at the face-offs. You know, I hate when guys have flags over them, because then you can't tell with their physiques. It's harder to see. Not the flag, obviously, but just it hides a lot of stuff. But either way, I can't really say this changed my opinion a whole lot. You know, in terms of the face-offs, both guys seem pretty stone cold. They both seem pretty locked in. You could say ever so slightly that Waldo maybe looks a tad bit timid compared to Sergei Pavlovich, ever so slightly, but it's kind of a stretch. You know, I can't really say either guy won or lost this face-off. It seems about dead even. If I had to pick whoever I think would have won this face-off, probably lean Pavlovich. He just seems a little bit more locked in. You know, Waldo Cortes-Acosta maybe seems a little bit more hesitant, but like I said, this doesn't affect my opinions on this fight at all. I'm still leaning Sergei Pavlovich. I get why people are on Waldo this week, though. You know, he just keeps proving people wrong, and he keeps proving the haters wrong and the doubters wrong. So I get why people are on Waldo, especially because Pavlovich, the last couple fights, he's been on a weird little 3-fight skid where he hasn't really looked like his old self. So I get why people are taking Waldo. I'm not super confident in Pavlovich. I just think he still gets the job done this week. But in terms of the face-offs and the weigh-ins, like I said, not a whole lot really stood out to me. Both these guys look good and ready to go. This is the interesting one. Now, we got Brian Ortega versus Aljamain Sterling. Brian Ortega could not make weight. He looked like an absolute zombie out there. So they bumped it up to a catch weight of 153 pounds. I could rant about this. I don't know what the hell is going on with Brian Ortega, man. He literally, he's pulling a Brian battle here, back-to-back weight misses. It's like, oh my goodness. Last one was canceled Diego Lopez. Now he's doing this with Aljamain Sterling. Shout out to Aljamain Sterling for at least taking this fight. Now, I know everyone's saying like, yes, makes me more confident in Sterling just because like, yes, Ortega looks like absolute dog shit in this photo. But the thing is like, if you think about it, he wants to fight up anyway. So Aljamain Sterling, you can't forget, he was at bantamweight. That's where he was champ. Now he's fighting up a weight class, and now he's almost fighting up 2 weight classes from where he was a dominant champion at. So, I mean, it just, that thought is just in the back of my mind, like in the sense of he is fighting up higher. So yes, Ortega doesn't look great, but at the same time, the higher weight should help Ortega. Is he acting? Is he putting on a performance just to get the fight through, like to get the weight class bumped up? Like, oh, what if he acts bad? He can bump the weight class up short notice, and that'll give him an edge over Aljamain Sterling, who's a bit smaller. I don't think so. Got to give Ortega the benefit of the doubt here. But the fact that he made Aljamain Sterling cut all the way down to 146, and then he goes, oh, I can't do it, let's make it up, raise it up, is a bit shitty. Honestly, it's pretty shitty. This fight should have likely been canceled. I don't even know why it's still on. Shout out to Aljamain Sterling, but this fight should not be sanctioned. It should have been canceled. Brian Ortega, I don't know what you do with him from this point on. He needs to move up a weight class, or he needs to retire. Honestly, it's just like the last couple years with him has just not been a good look. So I don't know if his head's in the right spot. I don't know what this weight cut has been doing to him. I don't know why he's not been able to do it the last 2 fights. So it's just suspicious. I don't know. It's just not a good look for Brian Ortega. Mentally, he just seems almost checked out. I don't know. He just doesn't seem like he's in the right headspace. Someone needs to check on bro. So hopefully he figures all that out in his personal life. Aljamain Sterling, all business. He seemed ready to go. He said, screw it. Yeah, let's do the catchweight bout. So you got to be confident in Aljamain Sterling this week. Yes, the higher weight is probably going to help Brian Ortega, but since it seemed like this weight cut had such a bad effect on him, I don't think he's acting here. He seemed really bad. I mean, if he was acting with all that, he deserves an Oscar an Oscar, but I don't think he's acting. I think he's generally just had a really shitty weight cut. And to go all 5 rounds against Aljamain Sterling, this is going to be a brutal fight, man. Like I said, this should not have been sanctioned. I don't know what he's doing. He looks mentally defeated, mentally checked out. This is not a good look for Brian Ortega. Like I said, I don't think he's acting. If he is acting, he deserves an award. I don't think he is. He just doesn't have that much muscle on him. So I just don't get what is so brutally challenging about these weight cuts. It's like he's not the muscular guy to where he's really having a hard time cutting down. It just seems like he's not fat. It's just he definitely is not the most muscular. He seems like he could lose a couple more pounds. Obviously, I'm not a doctor. I can't tell a man what he can and can't do, because obviously he's had trouble with this in the past. It just seems like I don't know what the deal is. I don't want to keep ranting about it, but at the same time, this does make me more confident in Aljamain Sterling, just because he seems ready to go. He seems locked in. Yeah, a couple pounds heavier is not going to help him, honestly. The heavier weight class is going to help Ortega. He just looks so bad that you got to have more confidence in Aljamain Sterling, just because Ortega looked so damn terrible on the scales. So it makes me more confident in Sterling this week. Now, from the main event, we got Johnny Walker versus Mingyang Zhang. Now, I can't really say the weigh-ins had a huge effect on my opinions. Excuse me. I can't say it had a huge effect, because Johnny Walker, he looks great. He looks shredded. He looks ready to go. He looks absolutely dialed. So I can't say anything negative here. And the same thing with Mingyang Zhang. He seems ready to go. He's not as shredded, but he seems fine. All that matters really is that he made weight. Seems like he had a great weight cut. You can't choose someone who's more shredded than the other. But I will say, just to Johnny Walker's credit, he looks great. He looks shredded. He looks jacked, ready to go. But same with Mingyang Zhang. Like I said, he looks ready to go. He looks shredded. Or not shredded, but he looks ready to go. He looks like he had a good weight cut. So this was the this was the face-offs between the two. And yeah, I mean, they seemed all business. This doesn't really capture the moment too, where there was one point during this where they not headbutt, but like Johnny Walker really gets in his face. And Mingyang Zhang, he seemed really calm, collected. He didn't seem like it really got to him. It didn't really affect him all that much. So I think he's absolutely dialed. I think he's ready to go. Johnny Walker with his eyes like bulging open like that kind of makes it seem like he's anxious and worried. I don't like the huge eyes like that. That just gives a sign of being uncomfortable. You know, when your eyes are like that, when you're high alert, your eyes are open, it's a sign of being uncomfortable, of being anxious, being just all around uncomfortable, like I said, in your environment. Whereas Mingyang Zhang is definitely more calm, cool, collected, which you like to see whoever you're picking. So it does make me ever so slightly more confident in Mingyang Zhang this week. I do think he won the face-offs. But like I said, both guys look great on the scale. So I think it's going to be a great fight. It's going to be a great scrap. And the better man's going to have the fair chance to win this fight. So I do think Mingyang Zhang probably gets it done. And now, if you guys like the content, please consider subscribing. It means a lot. Appreciate it a ton. Thank you guys for all the support, all the love, all the likes, comments, subscriptions, memberships. It means a ton. So thank you guys once again, and please consider it. So now to go over the final confidence rating. This is how I had it in the last video. If I had to have the confidence rating for the locks and traps, this is what I would have had it as. But like we talked about, if I had to put the locks and traps, if I had to pick some, I would, like we talked about, I would do Ortega versus Sterling. It would be Sterling. And for the traps, it would be Satybaldiev versus Nurgozhay. And it would be Yizha versus Wilson, just because of that huge, crazy money line for Yizha. I don't think it's warranted. That's why he's a trap. But yeah, like we talked about, this is how it was. And then after the weigh-ins and the face-offs and all of that, this is how my confidence levels changed. You know, everything kind of went up. You know, no one really had any red flags to me that weighed it the wrong, rubbed me the wrong way. Like we talked about, Ortega versus Sterling. Ortega looks like absolute horseshit on the scales. He probably shouldn't be fighting. You know, bro needs to lay in bed, recover, rest, move up a weight class, and rethink his career at this point, because he has just not been a good look the last 2+ years. So Brian Ortega, please get some help. Now, Pereira versus Daukaus. Like I said, Pereira looked great on the scales. He looked amazing. You know, he seems ready to go. Kyle Daukaus seemed a little bit hesitant, a little shy. He didn't seem like he won the face-offs. Pereira seemed like he had a much better weight cut too. So all around, it made me a little bit more confident in Pereira, but obviously I have him as a high confidence pick already. So not a whole lot's changing here. And next up with Rongzhu versus Austin Hubbard. This is a slight confidence boost. You know, it's like an orange because it's not a huge one, but it's not a low one. Rongzhu seemed ready. He seems locked in. He seemed to have a better weight cut. Austin Hubbard seemed a little bit timid at the face-offs. He seemed like he had a little bit harder of a weight cut. He seemed more drained, a little bit more tired, a little bit more groggy. But it doesn't change my confidence a ton, but it just ever so slightly makes me a tad more confident in Rongzhu. And then in the low confidence, we had Xiao versus SuYoung. Made me a little bit more confident in Xiao this week, just because he seemed to have a great weight cut. He seems absolutely dialed in. He won the face-off. He seemed more confident, more locked in than SuYoung did. SuYoung had a little bit of a hesitation to him, which you don't love to see. So it made me ever so slightly more confident in Xiao. But like I said, I do think this fight is a pick-up. It could go either way, so it's still a low confidence pick. Now, the one pick flip I do have, I'm pick flipping from Maheshate to Zhang. I know we were going to say we talk about this at the very end. Here we are. So I'm pick flipping the Zhang. You know, I was just watching through his fights, and his striking is pretty decent. You know, when we see Maheshate, he struggled against lower level competition, where at least with Zhang, the guys he's struggling to is Elvin Elder and Queen Salkild, who are pretty damn good prospects. You know what I mean? They're looking pretty damn good. Excuse me. So I was going through the tape, and I was like, you know, I do rate those wins higher. Whereas Maheshate, the main reason why I was kind of leaning him was the Steve Garcia win. But I'm like, one, that was years ago. And two, that was early in Steve Garcia's career too. It's like, he's looked so much better in recent years. I don't want to say that was a fluke, because he deserved that win. But at the same time, I don't want to base a pick just off of that one fight, because he hasn't looked as good. You know, since then, it's kind of looked a little bit worse. Whereas with Zhang, you know, he seemed to look better and better with every fight, even though he's 0-2 so far in the UFC. It's just, I still think he probably has a bit of a trajectory advantage for him going this week. So for a pick'em, I figured, yeah, I gotta go Zhang. You know, it being in China doesn't help. You know, if there is a robbery decision, it's gonna go Maheshate's way. So like I talked about in the last video, that does worry me. That does worry me. If this was in the States, I would have had Zhang from the start, like I said. But I'm like, I do think Zhang probably has a slight advantage in trajectory and skill wise as a whole. I'm gonna trust him this week. I'm going to take him. So pick flipping to Zhang, but everything else is pretty much the exact same. But anyway, guys, that does it for this week's weigh-in recap. Sorry, I got something in my throat. But thank you guys so much for all the love on the recent videos, all the likes, comments, all that. I love it so much. Thank you guys so much for all the love. It means a ton. And your boy really appreciates it. You know, it goes a long way. So thank you guys so much for all the recent support. It's totally awesome. I know this video is coming out early. You know, I woke up at like 6 a.m. to get this video out. I'm going to have my betting breakdown video later this afternoon/evening. So, like, it's 9 a.m. around my time right now. So, I'll have that video up for you guys later. So, make sure to stay tuned for that one. I know it's going to be late. I know we got the fights early in the morning. So, I'm trying to get that video out as early as possible. It's just been kind of weird with the scheduling this week. But you guys know the drill. I'll have that video out for you guys soon. So, I hope you guys enjoy this one. I hope you guys enjoy that one. And I hope you guys enjoyed the locks and traps and the full card breakdown. So, without further ado, it's your boy Jacob from Topside MMA. I'm going to get out of here so I can work on that best bets video for you guys to get it up as soon as possible. So thank you guys once again for all the support, all the likes, all the comments, all the love, all the everything. So thank you guys. I'll see you guys soon. It's your boy Jacob from Topside MMA, and I'm out. Peace.